This week on the Droids, we talk about the Rian Johnson trilogy. Is it still happening? And a new news of a Star Wars game coming out in the next year for the Nintendo Switch. All that and more this week on the Droids. Welcome back to the Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast. Alongside Ryan, I am Mike. And Ryan, it's been a while since it's been just the two of us. I can't remember. Did we ever come up with a name?
Our little Zoop at the beginning was a little anemic. Do we have a name? I don't know if this permutation has a name.
I think
we're certainly not the Buttoned Up Boys.
No.
Wasn't it like something and a little crazy?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, something and a little crazy.
Well, we want to take a moment to welcome all our new followers from TikTok of the podcast, subscribers, hopefully. If you're taking a listen to this show, we had a nice week on TikTok, getting some new people interested, but welcome aboard. Typically, there's four of us. You've got Ryan and Mike this time around, but we talk about all the latest news in Star Wars and also get into some other details as well. But we're thrilled to have you here. And be sure to write in, droidspod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts. Droidspod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, obviously Droidspod on TikTok. And then, of course, YouTube, that playthrough of Fallen Order. You got to check it out. Everywhere you can find us.
I'm hoping for the TikTok bump on that one.
I think it's going to happen. You know what? We should dedicate a TikTok to the YouTube playthrough.
The
right?
YouTube playthrough of a game that's over almost 2 years old at this point.
People jumping from platform to platform. It happens all the time.
Topical.
All the time. But let's talk about this, Ryan, in keeping with Rian news. Yes. Rian Johnson, as a long favorite of the pod, for those of you who are new to the show, we're very much fans of The Last Jedi. We come down on that side of that conversation, and we'll stick to it. But
on that side of the war, that's where we stand.
There's always a new Star Wars war that constantly keeps coming up. But with that in mind, we had news. There was I believe a fan interview. There was a personal interview that took place. She was also an author, journalist, but she won some sort of award. And I need to pull up her information because it's a little unfair of me to not
I believe her name is Soraya Wilson, correct?
I think you might be right, yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
But she had a one-on-one conversation with Rian Johnson and talked to him about a myriad of topics. But within that, she asked about an update on his Star Wars trilogy. And his response was, it's still happening. They're not nearly close to any form of production or the script. I don't think if it has been something he's started on because he's working on other projects. But it is supposedly still happening, which is music to my ears, but still makes me feel like it's up in the air. I don't think that's a guarantee. It's almost like more likely than anything he's sharing what is the company line because things maybe haven't officially changed. Doesn't mean that we could not be moving forward, but like he obviously couldn't divulge very much, and it made me be like, okay, if this was a serious commitment from Lucasfilm, it feels like there'd be more to it than just him being like, well, I haven't heard any changes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this will be a thing that until they announce that it is or is not definitely happening, we'll be wondering a lot.
Yeah.
I think that unfortunately for Rian Johnson, his involvement in a future trilogy, which we would be thrilled about, is it carries a bigger weight because it kind of it feels like it's indicative of the direction that Lucasfilm will be choosing to go, like whether they'll be giving into the evil. The dark side of the Force or not, and it's been unclear over the last few years exactly. And when we say the dark side, it's I mean the Last Jedi was polarizing, but like it really brought out this like really gross toxic part of the fandom which always existed, but it's been this kind of like raw nerve for that and it's I mean, the Soraya Wilson, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, she merely reported that he said it was still happening, and she was nearly harassed off of Twitter.
Was she? I didn't realize it. I mean, I'm not surprised that would happen, but I didn't see that backlash came to her.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking and not surprising. It's like there is a toxic part of the fandom that is just relentless in their harassment of people, saying, not even like, I mean, not that it would ever be excused. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that, like, someone just saying that a thing will exist is enough for people to. It's just disgusting. But, you know, for us, we love Rian Johnson. We love The Last Jedi. So I would love for his trilogy to move forward. I hope that is indeed happening.
And we weigh in saying that, you know, we're not saying anyone who dislikes The Last Jedi is in that camp. There's plenty of people who have legitimate problems with the film. It's more of that more derogatory, the people who would say bully somebody like Sarai Wilson online.
And there's it's a clear, it's very clear when you're dealing with like a bad faith argument about The Last Jedi. It's like not someone saying that, you know, I whatever, they feel that DJ didn't fit into the Star Wars world. Whatever, that's fine. Like, we can have these discussions, but it's very clear when you're in the middle of a bad faith argument with someone who is extremely toxic about this stuff. So, you know, hopefully that people can tell, you know, people who have been listening to us for a while obviously know, and any of our new listeners can tell that we're certainly not saying that if someone doesn't like The Last Jedi, that there's a blanket statement that it's like, oh, you're like a toxic person. There is a big Venn diagram that this seems to just be this lightning rod for the worst parts of the fandom.
Well, it trended on Twitter not only because of the news, but because those who wanted to rehash their problems with The Last Jedi brought it back up. Again, we don't need to go deep into all of that.
Yeah, of
I will say I'm thrilled at the idea that it's still a possibility. Like you said, we won't know until it really does officially move forward.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, and we've talked about it many times on this podcast, the Rian Johnson and Dave Filoni world of Star Wars is the Star Wars I want to see more of.
Yeah, same.
And so if that's still a possibility, I'm thrilled with that. Little bit of other news. We do want to mention, for those of you who are looking for the High Republic Light of the Jedi breakdowns and recaps, we're coming back to that. I think it's just something that we had a conversation last week with a first-time Star Wars viewer who we're looking forward to hearing his thoughts on The Empire Strikes Back in upcoming weeks. But we've had some other things we wanted to get into, so we will return to the Light of the Jedi. It is no indication that we aren't enjoying it, because we're all absolutely loving those books. But we will return to that as well. But
we've just fallen a little behind on our homework, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
there's stuff going on.
Life. Sometimes life takes hold, and you can't get all the reading done.
Well, we look forward to getting back to that, though.
Yeah, it's great.
One other bit of news before we talk about the game that is coming out for the Nintendo Switch in the near future is that there's just been a little bit more about the Gina Carano situation, that after it happened, there was discussion of like, oh, you know, she was on her way to getting a huge pay raise for leading the Rangers of the New Republic series, which we anticipated. They made the call to take her out of that presentation because of, you know, the things she had been posting. And then when this all came down, she was then obviously removed from having a chance to be a part of that. But it was interesting. And they also have said that they will not recast Cara Dune, which I think makes sense. I don't know. She's not like...
And you know what? That's totally fine.
It wasn't a character that was so integral to what The Mandalorian was. I mean, if screen time wise, what? She maybe has 5 episodes?
Yeah, and
6?
also I don't feel that her character was integral to the plot. You know, I mean, obviously she wasn't as much as like she was present for things. They used that character to like have around 4 pivotal parts of the plot, but I don't feel like, how do you go forward without her? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I genuinely wonder how you go forward without Grogu.
Yeah.
And we'll see. You know what I mean? But it's
time jump.
But I don't think that Cara Dune was such a pivotal part of the show that we can't imagine what it would be like if they don't recast her.
No, I agree with you. I think the show will go on as intended. It's almost very easy for them to be like, well, we had all this stuff planned for Cara Dune, and even though they're not far along the way they typically would be in shooting the next season, but it's like, let's just give it on to another character who happens to join his motley crew. I mean, it's not that hard to shift that storyline.
Yeah, they'll just give all her lines to Bill Burr.
He seems a little less likely to become a marshal. Is the only thing. I mean, I guess he could be a marshal of a Hutt type planet, a Hutt run corrupt planet. That seems possible. Sure. But we'll see where that all goes. Ryan, I think I'm going to default to here. I've seen a little bit and read about this new game, Nintendo's Hunters, which will come out in 2021 at some point. But what were your thoughts on this new addition to the gaming galaxy of Star Wars?
Well, Mike, I wish that I could tell you that I had much more information than what you said. It was revealed during the Nintendo Direct on Wednesday, which was a fun thing. Nintendo always puts on a good show that way. Very straightforward. They really tell you what they're going to tell you, then they tell you, and then they tell you what they told you. It's a good essay structure. But they revealed that it's going to be a free-to-play arena, I think a shooter of some sort, called Star Wars Hunters, that implied that it's bounty hunter characters. There wasn't really much more information than that. It's not clear if it's going to be a battle royale. Those are very big right now. Or if it's going to be a microtransaction pay structure kind of thing, or even I think they just said that it takes place between episode 6 and 7, which is cool. That's a very
a fertile ground.
Fertile ground. It's a trendy place to be right now. So that's exciting. It's cool that it's going to be free to play. Of course, that comes with a lot of different pitfalls with microtransactions and such. We'll see how that goes, but it'll give people a chance to check it out, see if they like it. And there were, for a game that they claim is coming out in 2021, there was shockingly little information about it.
That's a very good point. The 2021 timeline did surprise me.
Sure.
It was like, oh, okay, you'd think this would be something that we've heard a little bit more about with time. But it is in co-collaboration with Zynga, who's making this game. And as far as I recall, their claim to fame, was it initially... That wasn't Farmville for Zynga, was it? Or was it Words with Friends is what it was?
I'm not sure. This is news to me.
So that's in the description, and I guess I look it up is because you mentioned, could this be a Star Wars Fortnite? Could this be a Battle Royale Fortnite plan? But they do have... Because at one point they were purchased by Facebook, I think. Might be mixing them up with someone else. But nonetheless, it's clearly a maker
Farmville,
in the space.
Yeah, Farmville was their big thing. Sorry, I'm looking it up now.
A maker in the space that was, has some notoriety to them. Because I think they were bought by it for a pretty big price tag.
Sure.
And so for them, yes, exactly. So it's Words with Friends, Farmville, poker, that kind of thing. But
mobile games.
Yeah, mobile games.
Yeah.
But you could see them being a big part of doing something. I mean, they even have, I guess, a game called Tiny Royale. So if they do a Star Wars version of that, I'd be intrigued. I don't, I think you and I are maybe a little bit past as much as we're gamers, not necessarily in the demo for Fortnite as much as I think we both tried it out. But if they did it for Star Wars, would it get me? Yeah. Well, with time, we all would get better, but do we have the interest to do that?
But I wouldn't be surprised. This was announced during the Nintendo Direct, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like Fortnite, since this is a mobile game developer, if this is a kind of thing that is also on, iOS, is on Android, it might be one of those things. It may not be a super robust game, but it might be something that it's like, you pick up and play it for a few minutes. You can play with your friends on your Switch, on your iPhone, whatever.
It does look like it says on StarWars.com it'll be available for free to download for Nintendo Switch for the Nintendo Switch on the App Store and on Google Play later this year.
There you go. Yeah.
So I guess it is both.
Huh. So, cool. I have a feeling this probably won't be the kind of thing that, like you said, that we're the demo for, but it's like, I'm sure we will all give it a try. And, I'm not crossing anything off my list. I'd love to have a cool little Star Wars game to play.
I will say that I've spent maybe too much time thinking about purchasing a Nintendo 64 so I can play Shadows of the Empire again. If only they had made that available on Switch. I know they offered Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is now on the Switch as well.
Yeah,
but
which I played a lot of, and it's fun. I mean, I played it
go back
for 1 million hours on the N64. But
yeah, but I think with all the news of the new open world Star Wars game, obviously what they did with Fallen Order, no jokes aside, or all jokes aside about the playthrough, but I mean, such an incredible game that was.
Yeah.
This all adding to that pot of like, hey, I am happy if you're going to invest in new Star Wars games that can put me into another realm where I can brandish a lightsaber and continue to live out my fantasies of being in Star Wars. I mean, that's great.
And also this is in the wake of the news that EA no longer has the exclusive license to Star Wars games. So, we're going to start seeing these things open up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool.
Which is an exciting time.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
I mean, Ryan, this is a short one. We didn't have a whole lot to get into on this podcast, but I'm glad we touched on the news that we have.
Sure.
Are you going to be watching any Star Wars this upcoming weekend? I got to ask.
Great question. I mean, probably. I'm always kind of watching Star Wars. You know what I mean? I've been, so we record on Thursday. The episodes come out on Friday. So Friday for me is the WandaVision day. So that's kind of the big thing. But I have been we've been privately speaking, in our group chat about Phantom Menace a lot. So I'm thinking about watching that again soon. Although I've seen that pretty recently. But
could I ask, would you get some chance cubes when we all make it to Galaxy's Edge? Would that be a purchase you'd make?
It would 100% be a purchase that I'd make. I mean, I'll be so pent up if we ever get to Galaxy's Edge that
right?
Yeah, there may be no limit. I may be taking out new credit cards and stuff.
I'm very concerned about that because I thought I was going to spend a lot before the pandemic happened. And now that a pandemic has happened and when I go, I may wonder whether or not I'll ever go again. That one time I go, I'm leaving with everything that I could possibly have sent back to the room to then ship onto the house.
Yeah, there's going to be a sense of urgency about this.
Right?
For sure.
I'm still worried I'm never going to make it, and I'm never going to get my replica Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Rey lightsaber. Like I don't want the Rise of Skywalker version. I want the earlier version where it wasn't split up. But right. I mean, that is on my mind. And I'm like, oh, should I just get it from eBay right now while I can? No, wait for it. And then, of course, I'll have a special place on my mantle for my own custom lightsaber that I have to spend the money on when I get there.
Yeah, there's that. So there's the replica lightsabers. There's the custom-made lightsabers. The one thing is that, if we do eventually get to Galaxy's Edge, which I hope we do, the one thing that the delay has given me is that I was able to catch up on Clone Wars, which means that so like almost exclusively Ahsoka gear at this point. And like that's speaking of watching stuff. I'm still working my way through Rebels, which is great. I'm slight spoiler alert. I'm heading toward the Ahsoka episodes. And
I mean it's funny having watched Rebels and not Clone Wars in its entirety. I still love that episode, knowing all of the Ahsoka story. I
can't, since finishing Clone Wars, I can't stop thinking about that last arc. I don't know if I've officially said on the podcast that Ahsoka Tano is now my favorite Star Wars character.
I think you did.
Full stop.
In another conversation, I couldn't. I know you did. I feel like you did on the podcast.
Yeah, and this isn't a controversial opinion at all. It's just that what a revelation she was to me in watching Clone Wars. Late in the game. Before Ahsoka, my favorite character was Rey, and then Ahsoka just came in and geez Louise.
Wow, I think I know you talked to us about it, but it's just like it is a shocking thing to hear, not only because of your love of the prequels, but love of Star Wars in general. Because there are so many characters that are iconic in the sense of well-known, even if you've never seen Star Wars, such as our guest Sam had talked about knowing who Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader are.
Yeah, sure.
Not, wide known status or icon status among pop culture doesn't mean that something is absolutely the greatest. But I just find it's very exciting to me to now that I get to go and watch all of that Ahsoka stuff for the first time. I'm in season 4 and I've obviously watched a lot of her in Clone Wars already, but the way that story completes for her and then the more we're going to get in the Ahsoka series, that's very staggering to me. And that means so much coming from you that she has now taken on that spot for you.
Sure. I mean, like what a gift it was to me that, I've been a Star Wars fan now, 23 years, maybe, whatever it is, 25 years. since I first saw it when I was 7. I'm dating myself here.
Well, I was going to say, I couldn't remember I'm like trying to count. What was that? How much?
Yeah, to watch something new this late into the fandom, and
that's a very good point.
For it to be so strong that like she is like full stop my favorite character. So I mean, I look forward to talking to you about this in 4 or 5 years when you finally finish the Clone Wars. But
I know.
But I mean, who am I to talk? It took me 10 years, but.
Well, to be fair, you didn't have a Star Wars podcast where we were planning to talk about it 10 years ago.
But that last arc, what's referred to as the Siege of Mandalore, it's 4 episodes of the show, which is film length essentially, and they kind of treat it that way. Up there with my favorite Star Wars movie. So it's just, all this to say that you asked if I would be watching Star Wars. I've been thinking about going back and rewatching The Siege of Mandalore again, but I have been working my way through Rebels, which I'm enjoying a lot as well. So it's a bottomless well. Are you going to be watching any Star Wars soon? You got a little more of a busy life than I do.
I think I'm going to be watching the Clone Wars this weekend. And here's the thing: I feel like there's time is limited for me, obviously, with these. Young ones that you might be hearing in the background of our podcast running around. But I just have to, I want to, and I've been so anxious to, but it's been finding that time. I'm like, no, I'm going to make some time. I might make some time tonight. You and I recorded this a little earlier than we usually do.
That'd be great.
I might put in some time tonight. Now, I believe I'm in the episodes that are a bit of a sidetrack, not just Droids only episodes. I think I'm in season 4 where R2 and C-3PO are lost underneath the planet with those little creatures. I'm enjoying it, but it's I'm kind of ready to get back to that main storyline of those.
There are a few. Strangely enough, there are a few arcs where it's just droids. Like I think it's like 6 episodes of just droids. And George Lucas has said that those are his favorite episodes.
Well, that's wonderful. That actually
which
makes
is
me even
very
happier.
on brand for him. That it's like the ones that everybody's like, "What?" are his favorite.
All right, last question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Are you buying Ahsoka blades when you go to Galaxy?
Well, that's what I was thinking that's where it was getting when I was talking about Galaxy's Edge, which is I mean, now I need to buy 2 because she has the 2.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I need 2 hilts, and I will accept no other. You know what I mean? It was a tough decision when we were going earlier, because I was whose lightsaber will I get? It's like Rey was my favorite character. She's obviously still up there for me. And I was, she has Luke's old lightsaber. She doesn't have her own. And then I wasn't a huge fan of the Rise of Skywalker, so I'm like, I don't want to get her specific Rise of Skywalker one. And then, I like Luke's second lightsaber a lot, but that's a little obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's an easy choice for the Rye guy. All right, you got to go with the Ahsoka Tano's.
I wonder if I will be making 4 lightsaber purchases when I watch all of Clone Wars and join you in wanting all of that and
there you go.
Just bankrupting myself. Sorry, I know we were talking about a college savings account for our children, but no, I have lightsabers to buy.
Yeah, I mean, they can make their own way.
This world has shown that anyone can make their own way, right? It's really, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You're fine.
Yeah. My goodness.
Well, that'll do it, Ryan. I love a chance for the two of us to just do a short pod here, and we'll get back to the rest of the gang in the next week and talk more to Sam as he gets into The Empire Strikes Back. Our Sam 2.0 is the interview guest.
Yeah, new Sam.
And then, of course, the High Republic as well, and any other news that keeps on breaking within Star Wars. Always a pleasure, sir. And that's going to do it.
Too,
the droids you're looking for, a Star Wars podcast.
What they throw.
And Annie?